Stop taking me to this abandoned whatever warehouse and slaughter. Every time. There's only one place. You can either go here. Well, there's two. You can either go here or you can go to the abandoned mine shaft. When I came to this time, I was curled on my side in the dirt with my hands bound loosely behind me. Ugh. How many times does this make tonight? I struggled to open my eyes. I was so tired. Just want to sleep. There were voices, distant, muffled, like they were outside, wherever I was. I couldn't tell how many people there were. 5, 6, more? My head was too foggy to make sense of what they were saying. Adrian. That bastard. I finally got my eyes open and saw a familiar figure slumped nearby. Spencer! His eyes were open, but he looked strange. He was just staring ahead with a dead look in his eyes. I struggled to sit up. He immediately noticed me and scuttled over, pulling me up. What? Ugh. Work, mouth! What's going on? Well, that was what I'd intended to say. It sounded a bit more like, what's going on? But whatever. My mouth was stupid at the moment. Shh! He pulled me close. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He made me do this. I couldn't say no. Who? Adrian. What did he do to you? Now I was super tired and sort of half asleep, but nothing could possibly wake me up faster than hearing that someone had done something to my little brother, especially if that someone had also attacked me. Spencer might be a creep half the time, but he was my creep. No one got to mess with him, except me. And even then, it was mostly only when he deserved. Okay, and the brownie, but only because I couldn't figure out how to make it stop. The brownie! Shh! Are you crazy? I like, half life force Nora. She's just like, the brownie! Her thoughts are just all over the place. He hissed at me frantically and looked over his shoulder. The voices outside didn't stop, so I guess they hadn't heard that, because their vampire ears aren't working. Sorry. I was immediately contrite, but more than that, some of my memories had filtered back to me. I remember there was a legit brownie living in our house. Not a delicious chocolate confection, but a bratty little fairy that picked on Spencer. Still reeling from that memory and trying to piece together the rest, I looked around to work out where the heck we even were. It was some kind of gutted building with worn-out pillars and a few scattered bits of debris and broken planks. There were definitely people outside. I assumed that Adrian was among them. Are you okay? My head is weird. I can't remember things right. He mentioned that. Adrian? Yeah. When he brought you. Spencer buried his face in his hands. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I mean, glad that you're apologizing. I know why he's saying that. It's partly his fault. Most of it, I will say, is probably the vampires controlling him. But look, this is not the time to go to pieces. Pull yourself together. You and I, it's twin time. We gotta figure a way out of this mess. This isn't the time to go to pieces. I don't know why you're blaming yourself, but just knock it off. I gave him a sidelong look. What's with you in finding it utterly necessary to blame someone for everything that happens? I looked around the building, chewing my lip as I tried to take in the situation. I guess I should just be thankful you're not blaming me for this one. You're not mad at me? I raised an eyebrow. No, why would I be? You don't remember what happened? I didn't, actually, though the way he was acting was a bit concerning. Still, it didn't seem like the time for another of our screaming matches. If you did something I need to be mad about, I'll have to get mad later. We don't have time to worry about that right now. What I need to know is what's going on right now. Where are we? Why are we here?
Listen, do you remember the club?
As soon as he said that, a load of memories hit my head like an armored personnel carrier. I nearly doubled over under the sudden assault on my brain. It was all trying to pile back into my head at once. The club! That's right! We'd moved back. And I found out Allie was a witch! And I joined the club. And I was Fae, and Adrian was a vampire. That's what he did to me! He drained my freaking life force! No wonder I was so tired. How did you guys figure out the riddle? Spencer looked away guiltily.
We pulled resources to research.
He winced and put a hand to his head. Just... Okay, fine. Questions later. Don't force yourself. So Spencer hadn't been helping them because he wanted to. I suddenly realized something. Raven. Spencer started violently.
You know what that is?
I hissed angrily. That bastard! He turned you into a Raven? He's been feeding off you? Spencer bit his lip and looked away. That's why you've been so tired lately. Spencer looked at me, eyes wide.
He's been coming in at night. I didn't realize at first. I thought it was just a bad dream. He hides in the shadows.
He wrapped his hands around his body and squeezed his eyes shut. Alright. Okay, so it wasn't Matthew, it was Adrian that was behind the whole living in the shadows and feeding off of you thing. But Matthew was in on the plan, and it seems like the clique is still back together. Or, not back together, it has been together all this time. They were just playing at coolsies at school. He wrapped his hands around his body and squeezed his eyes shut.
He said he couldn't help it. That he needed to. Then he said he wanted you.
His face crumpled as he tried to force himself to explain. Just stop. Stop talking about it. We'll figure all that out later. If I could just get my hands free. As if reading my mind, Spencer moved behind me and started to untie the ropes. I was surprised he could manage it, all things considered.
He told me to keep an eye on you. He didn't say anything about not letting you go.
Nice loophole.
Still hurts. Not as much. Nora, we're in big trouble, and I don't think I can help you get away.
He gave me a grim smile.
I have to watch you, but that means I can still watch you when you run away. You should try to go get help.
I'm not leaving you here!
I can't leave.
Where even are we?
Slaughter.
Slaughter? That far out. Getting home was going to be tough. I had been to Slaughter before we moved. It was an old mining town outside of Pine Hollow, or what was left of it anyway. The ruins were pretty hard to get to. You could only drive part of the way. Then it was a bit of a hike through an overgrown trail. And to get to the main part of the ruins that weren't falling down and unsafe, you had to cross a rickety bridge across Cedar River. Most of the buildings were falling in, littered with leaves and overgrown with moss and ivy. There were a few that still had windows and ceilings. They were oddly clean compared to the rest, usually with evidence of fresh activity. Everyone thought it was haunted. Then again, if Slaughter was actually some kind of vampire hangout, maybe that description wasn't entirely inaccurate. Regardless, escaping from a place like this wasn't going to be easy. Even if I got away from Adrian and the others, I wasn't sure I'd be able to find my way back to civilization. Escaping, only to get lost in the cold, wasn't going to be much use. And what would happen to Spencer if I escaped and left him? I didn't even want to think about that.
Listen, you remember that day in the courtyard with Allie? You guys were talking about magic.
I think so. Vaguely.
She was telling you how to use magic, right? For defending yourself.
That's right. I remembered that. But I'm not in a fey body anymore, remember? Broken contract. Foxglove. You dousing me and freaking me out because I thought you were going to set me on fire?
You thought I was going to set you on fire?
Oh, don't give me that, Spencer. In another lifetime, we were in this exact same room and you set me on fire. Not the point. The point is that I have no magic. Spencer grabbed me by the shoulders tightly.
No! Remember what they said. That a human that stays in their land starts to change. You're not just a normal human anymore. That's why Adrian wanted you in the first place.
What?
Something about our life energy. Mine and yours.
I gasped when I realized what this was all about. If yours was purer than normal because of your connection to me, and now mine is purer than that because of the time I spent in Fairy... But Adrian said my life energy burned him.
While you were in a fey body, maybe. But you're not anymore.
So it was her life energy that burned him, not mine. Or maybe the combination of us both. But now that I'm back in my own body...
Your energy is more like mine.
I remembered back in the woods when he caught me. Or better. But even if all that is true, why would Adrian risk everything for this? After what happened with Mark's cousin, after spending so much time hating Mark's family, why would he go down the same path? I mean, sounds like his brother did.
I don't know. He's been weird. Weirder every day. Obsessed. Like a drug addict.
I didn't know what that meant. I mean, give it your best guess, girl. I know it's been a hell of a night, but like, he needs his next hit badly. He's just gonna get like more and more unhinged the more he gets used to it. Because he hasn't been used to it ever. He's been on like strict no feeding policy for, I forget how long it's been, 2 years or something like that. Whatever the case, we can't stay here.
I know. That's why you need to try what Allie showed you and...
Oh, hi, Adrian.
Are you two finished?
We both froze. He was standing in the door of the building, silhouetted by the moonlight. Beyond him, I could see several unfamiliar figures. All, I assumed, were vampires. And I knew Spencer and I were in big trouble. Adrian smiled and stepped inside the building, while the others lurked outside. I got to my feet as he came toward us.
I'm surprised you woke up so soon. Then again, some species do replenish life energy pretty quickly. I guess that's lucky for me.
He reached out from my face, and without thinking, I slapped his hand away. Don't touch me! He looked at my freed hand, then at Spencer, lifting an eyebrow. Don't look at him. Anyone could have gotten out of those stupid ropes.
That's good, because it would be unfortunate if you had help.
Spencer flinched, and I grabbed Adrian's hand without thinking. Leave him alone! I immediately felt the strength sapping away and released him like his arm was hot. He just laughed slightly.
You and your brother don't get to dictate what we do.
Are you stupid? This is crazy! Why are you willing to throw everything away just because we taste a little better than the average human?
Do you think that's what this is?
He grabbed me by the shoulders and shoved me against the wall, pinning me there.
How long do you think we should let you people tell us how we're able to live?
His eyes gleamed red in the dim light. You people? Spencer and I have never done that.
That's exactly what you humans do. You dictate what we eat, how we interact, how we dress. Everything we do revolves around making you, stupid humans, feel safe. And then I met the two of you.
He ran his cold fingers down my cheek, his expression relaxing a little. My head drooped as my strength drained away.
Do you have any idea how much more alive I feel right now? The moment I touched your brother, I couldn't get that feeling out of my head.
I had to get him to not touch me. Unable to slap him away without making skin-to-skin contact, I kicked out at him instead. He jumped back a little ways, getting well out of reach, though I doubted a kick from me would do much harm. He seemed amused more than anything.
I'm surprised you still have the energy to fight back.
No thanks to you!
Well, that is the point after all.
I had to get away from him somehow, but there was also Spencer. No matter what he said, I couldn't leave him here. Adrian must have seen me looking for an escape. He just smirked.
You can try to run from the exit if you want. Though, if you run away, I can't promise your brother will be okay.
You won't hurt him. That'll attract attention when others notice it. You wanted me because my life energy is similar to Spencer's. But if I vanish, it'll be way easier to cover it up. I have a history of wandering off. And you can make Spencer keep quiet about it, can't you? Okay, that's actually, like, a fairly decent plan.
Wow, you figured all that out pretty easily.
You're just way too simple-minded. What you're doing is going to make the entire vampire community suffer if you get caught.
Then I won't get caught.
And if you do, is this worth it?
Do you even know what it's like to be one of us? To have your wings clipped? To risk being imprisoned if you just eat the food that's normal for your kind?
Yeah, well, when I eat, it doesn't involve kidnapping people and keeping them prisoner in an abandoned building.
Even if I had your permission to do it, I'd get in trouble for it now.
You've been alive all this time without feeding on humans. He slammed a fist into the wall next to my head. The look in his eyes was strange, feverish.
You don't understand. Living like this is like having an arm or leg cut off. We lose our strength. We lose our abilities. We lose everything. I finally feel like myself again.
He wasn't acting like himself, though, unless he'd been really good at hiding who he really was. And the people outside? They're just going to let you keep all this amazing life energy to yourself? Or do I get to be a buffet for the lot of you? They're just as bad as the Fae who wanted to use me as breeding stock. Why do these people think they can just use humans how they want?
Well, I'm the only Vitae of this little group, you know.
So they're going to let you put everyone at risk just because you've decided you like the taste of fairy? He didn't get a chance to answer that. A shout came from outside, then the sounds of a struggle. Adrian looked back toward the entrance, frowning. Mark? I took the opportunity to kick him as hard as I could. He doubled over when my foot made contact with his stomach. Nice! I bolted for the rickety door on the opposite side of the building. I didn't even hear Adrian come after me. I was suddenly just being slammed up against one of the pillars. Adrian held me there, one hand around my throat. He wasn't squeezing or threatening me, but I definitely wasn't going anywhere.
That was stupid.
Are you done playing with your food? There's someone here to see you.
Matthew. Adrian glanced over his shoulder, and he almost visibly flinched at the glare. What? Was he afraid of him?
Who could it possibly be here?
Who do you think? Yeah, it's finally time. Took you freaking long enough. What have you been doing, Mr. Owl? Someone stepped through the door. Mark! Relief flooded my body.
Why do you look so surprised? You may be a pain, but I was hardly going to simply turn you over to them.
He'd come for us. Not that I was one for being rescued by the knight in shining armor, but going up against vampires was not really my forte. Adrian didn't loosen his grip on me at all. I contemplated kicking him again.
What are you doing here? You have something that belongs to me.
Hey!
The only things here belong to me.
I hate vampires.
You came to get her back alone. I didn't see a need to involve the others. We're more than capable of policing our own community. The only thing that would happen if I told the others is that we'd all end up suffering because you were stupid enough to eat fairy fruit and get addicted.
Alright. Title drop of the chapter. Fairy fruit? Fairy fruit. Fairy fruit. Fairy mounds? No, we read that one. Drifters, murder... It might be this one. I don't think I've read this one yet. Fairy food is known to have highly addictive properties to mortals and non-fae. It's said to have the most incredibly delicious flavor, and those who eat it are unable to ever become full afterward. They are tortured by ravenous hunger, unlike anything they've ever experienced, and can eventually waste away and die. That said, it's not actually the food itself that winds itself into people so strongly, but essence inside it and the nature of the fae magic used to create it. Okay, I just want to make sure that was the right one. It looks like it was. That does garner the question, was Elliot screwed after that one time in the one and a couple endings in his route where Nora, like, actually went through with feeding him blood? Like, is he just never able to feel full again? I'm like, uh-oh. Whoops. Fairy fruit? Wait, what?
Neither of them are actually fae, you know. Both of them have fairy magic infused in their life energy. Or didn't you realize that before you took your first little sip?
Fairy fruit is addictive.
Don't talk to him.
His hand tightened around my throat. Mark came further inside the building, keeping his eyes trained on us.
I can't say why your brother has that faint tinge of fae magic around him, but with you the reason is obvious. Regardless, it's not the fruit that's addictive. It's the magic infusing it. Shut up!
Is that why he's being so weird?
That has nothing to do with this! Then why don't you hand her over to me?
Just me? What about Spencer?
Do you think I care what happens to him? You can't have either of them! They're both mine! You've gotten rather greedy, haven't you? But I really don't care about your addiction either. I'm going to need you to let her go.
I feel like Mark's performing a piece, somehow. Like, I wonder if the vampire community, like, high-ranking members of the vampire community are monitoring this, and so he's like, I'm gonna prove. That's why he's like, why would I care about Spencer? Like, he's got to put on this. I wonder. I mean, it's possible they're just, like, still anti-Spencer, which, in all case, that's fine. But I do wonder if he's just like, well, I mean, I did kind of make claims to her, so I need to go get her back. And they're like, okay, under vampire rules, this is acceptable.
That isn't happening. I'd prefer this to stay a civilized discussion. Of course you would. You know you'd never win in a fight against me now.
What did that mean? Mark was at least twice his size. Yeah, but which one of them has fed recently and on what? Then again, what did I know about vampires? Maybe size really didn't matter. Nora, please, not now.
I don't care if you keep him. Shouldn't he be enough? Give me a break. If he goes missing, all eyes will immediately turn on us. You know that. And if they both go missing...
What?
Given their past, we can surely work it out so that they merely assume the two of them wandered off together.
Adrian let out a low snarl. I was startled to see a flash of fangs. What did he need fangs for? Wait. There was a loud crash outside, then shouts, and more crashes, then a bright flash accompanied by a crack of thunder that shook the windows. Maybe he did bring the actual club with him.
You brought others with you? Of course I did. You didn't think I was actually stupid enough to come alone, did you? Who is it? The idiot from the club? I know that stupid librarian is busy with work tonight. I didn't particularly want to tell Velos what was going on just yet, but yes, the other club members are here.
Are you insane? If everyone finds out about this...
Then it'll fall on the entire community again, just like it did last time. But there are some things that are more important than loyalty to our community. So if you didn't want that, you shouldn't have gone along. If you think there are just a few of our friends out there, you're nuts. A lot of us have been waiting for a long time to fight back, you know. I'm fairly confident that if the others can't handle them, William can.
Adrian's eyes went a little wide, and suddenly I was thrown to the floor. So William, interesting. I managed to catch myself before falling face first in the dirt, but landed on a piece of glass that bit deeper into my hand. Bit deep, not deeper. Ignoring the pain, I scrambled to my feet and started towards Spencer. Two hands closed on my arms, yanking them both behind me.
Just stay here. This is going to be over pretty fast.
I have no idea what you hope to accomplish. The entire club is out there. How exactly do you think you're going to manage to hide this?
All we have to do is subdue them. They'll do exactly what we say if we can make them into ravens.
It was amazing what people could try to get away with when they were backed into a corner. You know, I'm a little tired of people grabbing me from behind and yanking me around. I gritted my teeth and jerked my head back with all the force I could muster. Something cracked. I only hoped it was his nose. His grip loosened on me and I whirled around, ripping my hands free of him. I tried my best to focus, swept my hand through the air, and... Please let this work. Barrier! The burst of hot air that spiraled away from me caused me to recoil, but it also flung Matthew away from me. I looked down at my hand, quite pleased. Huh. Magic. Interesting. Oh, there goes the glowing eyes. Some 20 feet away, Mark and Adrian were having a very distressing fist fight. Distressing because Mark looked like he was losing. Hey, I conveniently fell on this glass shard. Do you want to, like, lick this? Badly. Just how strong is Adrian now? I wasn't an expert at this magic stuff yet, but I was going to give it a shot. I took another breath and closed my eyes. I have to make this a good one. I focused, pictured Adrian in my mind clearly, and pictured what I wanted to do. I swept my hand vertically through the air. Get away from him! The blast of hot air nearly knocked me off my feet. I staggered backwards as if someone had punched me in the gut. I was just glad that I had decent aim. It hit Adrian dead on and sent him tumbling away from Mark and into a pile of wooden pallets. Nice girl! Look at you being all strong. Thank God! clutching my abdomen, which was aching like I'd just done a few hundred sit-ups, I stumbled toward Mark. He was standing a bit out of breath and definitely shocked. I grabbed his hand and pulled him to the other side of the building. He stopped me before I pulled him outside.
Take your brother and get out of here.
I don't know if you noticed, but you're kind of getting the crap kicked out of you.
I did, in fact, notice.
Is he really that much stronger?
Yes. If I had blood, maybe. As it is, he'll probably follow you as soon as he regains consciousness. So you need to fight your way to where the others are if you can.
Blood? So vampires are basically stronger when they eat. Adrian had also gotten stronger because he'd been eating. If that's the case, then can't you just drink mine?
No! No. I won't do that.
I held my hand up to him. I like that she's bringing back what Elliot said, like, it's already leaking. It's already leaking out. It's not like I'm offering my neck. Blush. He stared down at my injured hand. I get that it's not exactly a candlelit dinner, but waste not, want not. The important thing right now is winning. Mark's face scrunched and he looked away. Across the building, we heard the sounds of Adrian moving. Do it! It's not a request. If you get hurt because you're stubborn, I will never forgive you. What's the point of being weird about it?
You're a pain.
So are you. And that was their Han Solo Leia version of I love you. He took my hand hesitantly and finally lowered his head to the injury, pressing his mouth against my skin. I wasn't sure what I expected. It hurt. Of course. I mean, he was sort of nibbling at a pretty deep laceration. It was also kind of embarrassing. Plus, he was making little slurping sounds that made me feel awkward. And all of that was going on while there was a brawl outside and another slightly crazy vampire was lurking on the other side of the room. I felt really weird about the whole thing. Apparently he did as well, because he pulled away sooner than I expected, the back of his hand pressed to his mouth.
That's all I need. Adrian's awake anyhow.
Are you, better now?
Yes.
Good. Hit Adrian for me, too.
The only person I'm doing any of this for is you.
Aww. He left us there and darted across the building to land a punch on Adrian just as he stood.
Why would you let him do that?
Self-preservation? I don't want him to lose.
You have the worst taste in guys.
Look, I don't want to hear from you, Mr. Raven. You're lucky I have bad taste in everything, including brothers. Thanks.
Adrian told me not to leave. I don't think I can.
We are going to have to fix this Raven thing with you. Seriously, it's annoying.
More from me than you.
I don't know. I'm pretty close to knocking you over the head and dragging you out unconscious. I pulled him along the side of the building to the front entrance. The sounds outside were dying out, and I felt it might be safer to go where I knew the other club members were. For all we knew, someone was waiting in the back to ambush us. Mark definitely had new wind in sails. He slammed Adrian into one of the columns, then into the ground, pinning him there.
It's over! Stop fighting! You can't win this one!
I had never seen him so animated. It was frankly terrifying and fascinating. I couldn't tell if my heart was beating so fast because I was scared of what I was seeing, or because it's kinda hot. Maybe.
You don't understand! You don't understand what it was like for us! You don't understand what this has given me! We all understand what it's like to have our wings clipped. This isn't the answer. You know that. You knew that when your brother joined Alex and you didn't. You're not in your right mind at the moment, that's all. No! No!
He tilted his head back, looking at me desperately, reaching one hand out. Interesting. Trying to see if he has control over me.
Nora! Nora, come here!
The word wouldn't come out. Oh no! But I felt an almost undeniable urge to go to him, but I stumbled back against the wall instead, staring at him in horror. What had he done to me? Is this what Spencer felt every time Adrian told him to do something?
I said, come here!
He grabbed Mark's hands and twisted, then threw him toward us. Mark landed in a heap and lay still. I ran to him, pulling him to his feet as Adrian advanced on us. No! I swept my arm out horizontally. The blast of air hit Adrian, and one of the support pillars with enough force that it cracked down the middle. It was already probably half crumbling anyway. The building shuddered and a huge piece of roof fell in. Mark grabbed me and fled through the door. I caught Spencer's arm, and the three of us tumbled outside as the entire ceiling and part of one wall fell in on top of Adrian. Well. Wait,
He's fine. Something like that is hardly going to do more than contain him for a bit.
Nora! I was nearly bowled over as Allie ran across the grass and threw herself at me. Ow! Oh my god, you're okay!
That's the last of them. They definitely won't be going anywhere. Where's Adrian?
Well?
Nora knocked a freaking building on his head.
It was an accident!
We'll dig him out. Corvin, ready that book. We want to bind him as soon as we see him.
Dang, so nice to see the whole club working together. The three of them climbed over the rubble and started looking for Adrian. My legs decided to give out, and I flopped onto the ground. This sucks. Allie knelt beside me. Are you okay? I glanced up at Spencer. I think we're fine.
Just as we thought. He seemed to have been infected by the fairy magic in Nora's life force. Probably got addicted to the faint traces of it in Spencer's first. Then completely lost himself after the first time he drained Nora.
Damn. I don't know whether to feel sorry for him or not. What's going to happen to him now? That'll be up to our superiors. They might be lenient since he wasn't really in full control of himself. And the catalyst to all this was an accident. I didn't really know how I felt about that. He definitely wasn't himself, but what he'd been doing to Spencer all this time really pissed me off. I looked up at Mark. I'm glad you showed up when you did.
I thought you were just going to go along with him.
Nah, I never really thought that was a concern. He's too smart for that. But how did you guys know we were here? Mark looked away sheepishly.
Your thoughts suddenly went quiet.
He's been monitoring them all this time. Wait, what?
I'm so accustomed to your presence that I usually hear a faint murmur of your thoughts all the time, even if we're apart. It suddenly went quiet, and I was concerned. I flew to your house.
At 3 in the morning? Wait, flew?
We are shapeshifters, you know. The back gate was open and I couldn't sense your presence anywhere.
He texted me and I tried to contact you. Neither you nor Spencer answered. So from there, we all got together and tracked the two of you down. I'm just glad we got here before.
Before he locked me in a dog cage or something? Yeah, me too. See, Nora and me were on the same wavelength about the cage.
Look, I know you guys have a lot to clean up here, but Nora and I need to get home before our parents work out we're gone. They're oblivious, but not that oblivious.
Right. We'll get you guys home, but the agency's going to have a lot of questions for you both.
It's fine. I have some things I want to say to this agency of yours, too.
I can't wait to hear it.
And suddenly it was November 3rd.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm coming. I waved to Spencer, who was just coming out of the house, and hopped into Mark's car. I take it we're back in business, BB? I settled back into the passenger seat with a sigh as Mark pulled out of the driveway. Even after all that had happened, life just kinda kept going. Spencer and I had gotten home safely that night, and without Mom and Dad realizing we were gone. Best worst parents. Allie had worked some kind of magic on them just to be safe. Okay. The next day, we'd been waiting anxiously to hear how everything ended after we left the others still digging Adrian out of the building I'd managed to collapse. Mom and Dad had been called away in the afternoon after Grandpa had a minor relapse. That was not fun. But he seemed to be doing more or less okay. They were staying at the hospital with him, so Spencer and I were by ourselves. If there was a silver lining to that, it was that I'd been able to go down to the mysterious agency to have a little chat with Velos and some of the others about what had happened.
How is your brother doing?
A lot better now that Adrian isn't slipping into his room at night for the occasional midnight snack on his life force.
I would imagine so.
I gave him a sidelong look. And how's he doing? Adrian, I mean.
As can be expected. The withdrawal is painful. If he was human, he would likely not survive it.
If he was human, he wouldn't have been eating fairy life force to begin with.
Perhaps not. But humans have eaten fairy fruits many times, and they typically don't survive being weaned off it.
That was true enough. Fairies suck.
Perhaps. But Adrian and his friends owe the leniency he received to one particular fairy whose shouting at the agency's director could apparently be heard out on the street.
I wasn't shouting that loudly.
That is not what I heard. I also heard you threw a paperweight.
I was angry.
Clearly.
Look, I'm not exactly ready to forgive him for what he did to Spencer, or what he tried to do to me. But it's unfair to lay all the blame on him. At the core of everything was the fact that he was half-starved due to the agency's regulations on vitae. Not to mention the bitterness about his brother and how vampires in general are treated. They have to accept part of the blame. Good on you, girl.
I doubt they would have had you not insisted. Loudly and violently. As it is, he's lucky he's only on medical leave, not expelled. The others are lucky to be dealing with the suspension only.
Yeah, well, I'm less inclined to be as kind to Matthew and the others. But from the sounds of it, they were pretty terrified after Adrian threatened them. So I guess it doesn't make sense to be too hard on them either.
I have to admit that I was surprised you defended him so vehemently.
His voice was a little tinged with annoyance. I smirked slightly and reached for his hand. I wasn't trying to protect just Adrian, you know.
I know.
We reached the school and went up to the club together. Mornings these days were a little more active than usual. All the club members had been disciplined for acting on their own and not telling anyone else what happened. Spencer and I got yelled at by Velos. What did we do? A lot. Pretty much everyone was being forced to help him in the library, carting books around, sorting storage rooms, and so on, as punishment. Spencer was getting revenge by pestering him with questions about the supernatural, though. That was usually fun to watch. They didn't seem to get along. I was pretty sure it was because they were a lot alike. But it was nice to see Spencer adapting. Slowly but surely. I dropped my things on the sofa and went to the library door. I didn't head into the library, though. Instead, to Solace Court. Mark was right behind me.
Not going to the library this morning. Velos will complain.
Coffee first. He can complain all he wants, but he's going to complain more if I'm cranky.
No doubt.
I stopped halfway through the courtyard and turned to him. We had been spending time together the last few days, but the fight we'd had last week wasn't something we'd really talked about yet. I was wondering. I hated leaving that hanging. It felt wrong to just move on without addressing that. I took a deep breath and moved a little closer to him. Mark, about last week, I want you to know that He stopped my words with a finger to my lips. I know. Reading my mind again? He frowned. Your thoughts have gotten a lot quieter since you've returned to your own body. To the point I wonder if they were only so loud because they weren't fully attached to the one you were in. You seem annoyed by that. I'd just gotten used to the noise is all. Mark. Do you like me? I want you to tell me clearly. Are you stupid? I mean, when a tsundere asks you, are you stupid, that's all you really need to know. He touched my cheek gently, sliding his fingertips along the back of my jaw. His hand trembled slightly. I like you. Of course I like you. I've liked you from the start. I smiled up at him. Those were the words I'd wanted to hear him say. I know. He scowled. If you knew, then why make me say it? Because I wanted to see that look on your face. He glared at me. I just laughed. You're a pain. So are you. He pulled me to him in a tight hug. I'm sorry for the things I said last week. I was stupid. And obviously wrong about you. I'm sorry too. All of this has been frustrating and overwhelming. But I wouldn't give it up. Any of it. I pulled away a bit. Well, maybe the part where Adrian tried to eat me and my brother. That was a bit weird. Just Adrian. It didn't bother you when I did it. I flushed and looked away. That was an extenuating circumstance. He put his fingers on my chin, lifting my face to look at him. It was. And I don't intend to do it again. You're not prey. That isn't how I see you. I know. I'm just glad fairy blood doesn't have the same addictive properties as our life energy. It would be annoying if you kept trying to bite me every time we saw each other. Okay. Elliot was safe in the other route, guys. We're good. Phew! Yes, it looks like your fairy magic doesn't work on me. Then what does work on you? Would you really like to know? Of course I do. I need some kind of weapon against you. He gave me a teasing smile as he pulled me against him. My eyes went wide as heat flooded my face. I suppose I have no choice but to give a demonstration, then. Now that's a kiss. That is a full-on romantic... Look at their pointy ears! Aw, pointy ears unite! I love that. That's great. Man, Mark got 2 kiss EGs, everybody. Count them, 2! And with that, he leaned down and kissed me. I wrapped my arms around him tightly, so grateful to be able to be with him. To be a part of his life. And grateful he was a part of mine. It had been a rocky start, but I had a feeling it was only going to get better from here. No, I knew it was only going to get better. Wow. That was great. That was so good, guys. I can't even express. That was just, I loved it. I loved everything about that. So good. It's interesting, like, okay, so like the whole Adrian following Nora in the beginning was just to get back at Mark and be a dick that way. But then his plan morphed after he accidentally fed on Spencer. And it's just like, I need more of that fairy fruit. Which makes sense. Whew. Okay. That was crazy. I love, though, that we actually had a tangible impact on the supernatural community in this one. So it sounds like we gave those the agency a little bit to think about anyway. So, you know, we can hope that, like, vampire rights are respected in the future. They'll start working towards, like, not having these horrible situations where they're literally depriving vampires of food. Like, guys, this may be a bit of a problem, you know? You should maybe rethink your life choices. So I really liked that. And I just love Mark and Nora together. They're great, even when they were fighting for so long. I mean, that is very in character for their personalities. Like, they're both super tsundere, they're both super stubborn, they both, like, just lash out. But they're there for each other when it counts. And I'm really glad that they didn't just, like, gloss over that argument. They actually, like, came back to it at the end. And were like, no, I need to actually, you know, settle this. We're not just gonna pretend it never happened. It's like, look, I'm sorry for what I did, and I'm sorry for what I did. I didn't mean any of it. Ah, so good. Words fail me. I can't even, like, express. I'm gonna have to just gush about it in my heart right now, and then talk about it at length, ad nauseum, when I do my final thoughts one of these days. Oh, definitely my number one so far, though. So good. This brought out so many emotions in me, this route. That's great. What was that ending called, anyway? I must know. Alright, let's look at our endings. Mark? What works on vampires? It's true. We found out at least one vampire's weakness, anyway. So, don't know how useful that would be if I came across any other vampire, but, you know, it's worth taking note of anyway. But we did it, guys. We got Mark's best ending. So thank you very much for joining me for that. I hope you enjoyed this as well. Next time, it's on to Bad End Town. So hopefully I will see you there for that, guys. Until next time, see you later.